43 years of gardening, and I have planted flowers that I would take back without a moment of hesitation. One perennial I put in a border bed is still showing up in a neighbor's yard 3 properties over, and I planted it 11 years ago. Another flower I chose for a cutting garden produced seeds that are now germinating in my lawn, my gravel paths, and a natural area behind my property that I have no realistic way to restore. And at least 4 of the flowers I am about to name are sitting in 4-inch pots at a garden center near you right now, tagged with nothing more specific than a bloom color and a zone rating. 13 flowers, real removal costs, real ecological damage, real consequences that no garden center in this country is currently required to disclose before completing the sale. Stay with me through all 13 because the last one on this list is the one that catches experienced gardeners completely off guard. Not beginners, not people buying their first flat of annuals, gardeners with decades of experience who should have known and did not because the information simply was not available at the moment it mattered. I know because I was one of them. Every week on this channel, a gardener somewhere in America sidesteps a mistake before it becomes a removal bill or a damaged relationship with a neighbor whose yard is now full of something they never chose to plant. The gardeners who catch it in time are the ones who had the information first. If knowing what the tag leaves out sounds like something worth having before this planting season moves any further, this channel is where you need to be. Plant number 1 is Oxeye daisy. Every garden center from Vermont to Oregon stocks this flower in spring. The tag shows clean white petals around a bright yellow center disc. Classic, cheerful, and universally recognizable as the daisy most people picture when they hear the word. It promises a long bloom season, drought tolerance once established, and a naturalizing habit that fills in bare areas with effortless white flowers. Every one of those promises is accurate. The first season is genuinely delightful. The second season, the clumps are noticeably larger. Still appealing, the spread appears manageable. Most gardeners who notice it at this stage assume they can simply divide the clumps every few years and maintain control. That assumption is the mistake. One mature Oxeye daisy plant produces up to 26,000 seeds annually. Those seeds remain viable in the soil for up to 3 years, germinating in waves across every season following a single year of bloom. They travel on wind, on garden footwear, on mowing equipment, and on the fur of any animal that moves through the planting. In meadows, roadsides, and pasture land adjacent to residential gardens, Oxeye daisy establishes and outcompetes the native wildflowers and grasses that regional pollinators depend on. Currently listed as a noxious weed in multiple western states and as an invasive species across significant portions of the Pacific Northwest and upper Midwest. In agricultural settings, established Oxeye daisy infestations reduce pasture productivity and are documented to be toxic to some livestock species when consumed in quantity. Professional removal from an established garden bed, meaning excavation of the root crowns combined with multi-season seed bank management, runs between $200 and $800 depending on how many years the plant has been in the ground. The native replacement that delivers the same visual impact is native black-eyed Susan, Rudbeckia hirta. Similar white and gold color relationship, now shifted to gold and dark brown, with a bloom season that extends from midsummer through fall, rather than peaking in spring and fading. Well-behaved, genuinely supportive of native bees and butterflies, available at most garden centers nationwide, and documented to coexist peacefully with every other plant in the border without consuming it. Before purchasing any plant described on the tag as naturalizing or self-seeding freely, ask specifically what that means in year 3. Naturalizing is a marketing word. The question you need answered is whether the plant is documented as invasive in your state before it goes into the cart. Plant number 2 is Dame's Rocket. Sold every spring as a cottage garden perennial and frequently included in wildflower seed mixes under the name Wild Phlox, which it is not. The resemblance to phlox is visual only. Dame's Rocket, Hesperus matronalis, produces tall flower spikes in purple, pink, and white that are genuinely beautiful and intensely fragrant in the evening. The tag, when there is one, often simply describes it as a cottage garden classic. The first season delivers exactly that: tall, romantic, fragrant. appropriate in every respect for the informal border it was planted in. The second season, seedlings appear around the original plants, easy to dismiss as normal self-seeding behavior from a well-mannered garden perennial. The third season, those seedlings are everywhere, in the lawn, in the gravel, along the fence line, germinating in the mulch of every adjacent bed. Dame's rocket is a biennial that perpetuates itself entirely by seed, and a single established plant produces seeds by the hundreds that disperse freely across the surrounding property and into neighboring natural areas. It is currently listed as invasive across multiple northeastern, midwestern, and mountain states. In natural areas and woodland edges, Dame's rocket establishes in disturbed soil and suppresses native wildflowers, including native phlox species, which it visually resembles closely enough that many gardeners and hikers do not realize they are looking at an invasive plant when they encounter it along a trail. The native replacement with the same tall, romantic, fragrant presence is native phlox. Phlox paniculata for the back of the border, or native woodland phlox, Phlox divaricata, for partially shaded settings. Both are genuine North American natives. Both support native pollinators in ways that Dame's rocket, as a European introduction, does not. Both are available through quality nurseries and native plant specialists nationwide. Before purchasing any plant from a wildflower seed mix, look up every species in the mix individually. Seed mixes marketed as wildflower meadow blends routinely include multiple invasive species alongside genuinely native ones. There is no regulatory requirement to disclose this on the packaging. Plant number 3 is common tansy, Tanacetum vulgare, sold at herb nurseries and farmers market plant sales as a companion planting herb with insect-repelling properties and attractive ferny foliage. The ferny foliage is genuinely attractive. The bright yellow button flowers in late summer are cheerful and long-lasting. What goes alongside that reputation is the documentation of tansy spreading aggressively through every garden it inhabits. The plant spreads by underground rhizomes and by prolific seed production simultaneously, which puts it in the category of plants that operate both spreading mechanisms at once. Rhizomes break during any removal attempt, and every fragment left in the soil generates a new plant. Simultaneously, seed heads ripen and disperse into every adjacent area within wind distance. Removing established tansy requires excavating the top 12 inches of soil across the entire affected area. Any fragment left behind restarts the process. Listed as noxious in multiple Western states, the entire plant is documented as toxic to livestock in significant quantity, which limits its practical use as a companion plant in any garden sharing a fence line with neighboring properties containing animals. The native replacement for yellow late summer flower interest is native goldenrod, solidago species. Genuinely well behaved when the appropriate species is selected, supports more native bee species than almost any other late-season flowering plant available to American gardeners. No management, no removal planning, no conversation with a neighbor about whose yard it moved into.
Plant number 4 is 4 o'clock, Mirabilis jalapa. The flowers are extraordinary, vivid magenta, yellow, white, and bicolored blooms that open in late afternoon and stay open through the evening, making this one of the few flowering plants that perform specifically for gardeners who arrive home after work. The fragrance is genuine, the heat tolerance is real, the deer resistance is documented. This is the plant I wish someone had told me about before I planted it along the foundation of my back porch in Zone 7, not because of what it does above ground, because of what it does below it. 4 o'clock develops a tuberous root system that grows larger and deeper with every season. A plant in its 3rd year has a root mass that can reach the size of a sweet potato or larger, extending 10 to 14 inches below the soil surface. Digging out an established colony from a foundation bed is not an afternoon of work. It is a multi-day physical undertaking requiring removal of every root fragment because any piece left behind regenerates completely. The plant self-seeds prolifically in Zone 7 and warmer, producing new seedlings across the surrounding garden every spring from the previous season's drop. The entire plant is toxic if ingested. This is not listed on the tag at any garden center where this plant is sold. In households with young children or pets that access garden areas, that information matters before the plant goes in the ground. For evening fragrance and late afternoon bloom in similar color ranges, native Aenothera lentimery opens delicate white and pink flowers from early summer through hard frost. Well-behaved, no toxic concerns, no excavation required.
Plant number 5 is Rose Campion, Lychnis coronaria, cottage garden staple. Brilliant magenta flowers above silver, woolly foliage. Every garden center that stocks perennials carries it in spring. The silver foliage alone is worth looking at even when the plant is not in bloom, and the magenta flowers are saturated in a way that stops visitors in a way few other perennials manage. First season? Perfect. Second season? A few seedlings appearing around the original plants. Charming, even. Third season, Rose Campion seedlings are coming up in every bed on the property, including beds where the plant has never been deliberately planted. Rose Campion is a short-lived perennial that perpetuates itself entirely by seed, and does so with what can only be described as industrial efficiency. A single plant releases hundreds of seeds annually into any open soil, any mulched surface, any path crack, in any season when temperature cooperates. Removing Rose Campion from a bed where it has established for 4 or more years means managing continuous seedling germination for 3 to 4 additional seasons after the original plants are gone, because the seed bank takes that long to exhaust itself. This is not a plant that destroys wetlands. It is not listed as invasive in most states. It belongs on this list because it is one of the most frequently cited sources of garden frustration I encounter from gardeners on this channel, specifically because it was presented as a cooperative cottage perennial at the point of sale, and nobody mentioned that removing it would take the better part of a decade. The replacement is native catchfly, Silene species, which provides similar magenta color impact and the same silver-tinged foliage, without the relentless self-seeding that makes Rose Campion so exhausting to manage once established.